The city stretched out like a glimmering offering, wrapped in the haze of morning light. Zuri Gold stood barefoot on the rooftop ledge of her downtown penthouse, arms raised toward the sky. Behind her, the skyline pulsed awake, glass spires catching the dawn like knives dipped in honey. "To all my beautiful beings," she purred into the drone's lens, her voice a soothing balm to the 3 million viewers tuned in. "This sunrise stretches for your glow-up and your ground." Her dreadlocks cascaded like liquid gold over her shoulders, catching sparks of light as she moved into cobra pose. The wind kissed her skin, tugging at the hem of her silk set. From every angle, she looked divine, curated, glowing, untouchable, and yet something inside her was fraying. The dreams had been growing stranger. Whispers in a language she didn't speak, heat blooming beneath her shoulder blades. Wings, always wings, just out of sight. She shook it off. She was Zuri Gold, lifestyle icon, influencer goddess, queen of curated calm. There was no room for unraveling. Not when 3 brand deals and an energy drink collab were riding on this sunrise. Whoa! She moved into tree pose, one foot pressed to her thigh, hands in prayer. The drone floated steadily until it didn't. A sudden flicker, a shadow across the rooftop. The wind changed, sharp and purposeful, like a breath held too long. Her mat slid, her balance teetered. She tried to catch herself. Too late. The edge. Her heel slipped. The sky opened. 35 stories of open air swallowed her whole. She didn't scream. Not at first. Shock held her breath hostage. Then, as gravity yanked her into freefall, sound tore from her throat. A raw, disbelieving cry as the world blurred past. And then, light, golden, blinding, crackling through her spine with a sound like splitting earth and humming crystal. Pain bloomed. Or was it power? Something burst from her back. Wings. Ethereal. Vast. Their roots dark as obsidian, fading into brilliant gold at the tips. Feathers the size of blades, pulsing with heat. She didn't fall. She soared. The drone, still live streaming, caught the frame. A woman suspended mid-air in the rising sun, dreadlocks aflame with light, wings spread wide like the wrath of a forgotten god. Then the feed cut to static. Hashtag #ZuriCanFly began trending within 8 minutes. Zuri didn't speak for hours. She paced her penthouse in silence, hands trembling as she touched the warm skin of her shoulders, where delicate golden filigree had begun to glow just beneath the surface. The marks pulsed faintly, curling like living tattoos toward her collarbone and temple. She'd scrubbed at them until her skin went pink. They didn't fade. The drone was gone, fried probably, but the internet had already made her myth. Half the world thought it was CGI, the other half thought she was a goddess. Cults were probably forming. She opened her DMs. Hundreds of messages, most screaming in all caps, but one caught her eye. No icon, no name, just a username, Ocean Eyes. "Nice recovery," the message read. "Not everyone sticks to landing. Curious to see what you do next." She stared. Her fingertips hovered over the screen. "Who are you?" she typed. The reply came instantly. "Let's say, someone who's been watching and waiting." She slammed the laptop shut. Her hands wouldn't stop shaking. She went to the bathroom, turned on every light, stared at her reflection under the harsh bulbs. Golden markings shimmered at her temples. Her breath hitched. A sound behind her made her whirl. A man stood in the doorway. Tall, broad, a calm, coiled presence, like a sword sheathed in silence. His features were carved from dusk and sun, and his eyes knew her. "I didn't mean to frighten you," he said softly. "Zuri Gold." She backed up, hand braced on the sink. "How do you know my name?" "I've always known it." She blinked. "Who are you?" "My name is Malik. I was assigned to protect you, but your awakening came earlier than expected." She stared at him. "Assigned by who?" she demanded. But he turned his head, listening to something only he could hear. "They saw your wings. You're not safe here." Then he was gone. No door opened, no sound, just Gone. She stood in the silence, heart hammering. The city below roared on. But something in the air had shifted. She was no longer alone. She didn't sleep. When she closed her eyes, the dreams returned. A vast celestial garden, a woman with silver dreadlocks braided with stars. A voice that said, "You are the return." The gold remembered. She woke with a gasp and felt the ache in her back again, like something was still pushing its way through. By dawn, she sat curled on the sofa in her robe, tea long gone cold in her hands. A knock broke the quiet. She opened the door slowly. Her mother stood there. Zuri Gold. Regal. Wrapped in gold and indigo ankara, eyes lined in kohl and worry. A woman with secrets stitched into her silence. Zuri's throat dried. "You saw it," Zuri whispered. Adeniki nodded. "And so did they." There was a long pause. Then, "You knew," Zuri said, stepping back. Her mother entered with slow grace. "I knew it might happen, but not like this. You lied to me. I protected you." Zuri scoffed. "That's what they always say before the betrayal lands." Adniki didn't flinch. "There are things you don't remember. Things your body is starting to awaken. Your father's legacy, your own." Zuri said nothing. "You're not just viral, Zuri. You're gold. And the world is waking up to what that means." Silence pressed between them like fog. Zuri turned away. She didn't want explanations. Not yet. Not after that fall. Not with her skin still humming like static. Not with strangers appearing in doorways and cryptic messages sliding into her inbox like prophecy. She needed out. She needed to breathe. She needed... That night she didn't go home. She let herself be taken somewhere quiet. Jay's penthouse was stillness wrapped in shadow. No cameras, no masks, just the dark and a man who knew her name, but not her truth. In his arms, she surrendered the weight she'd carried since she fell from the sky. He didn't ask questions. He never did. Not when her hands trembled against his chest, not when she kissed him like an apology, not when she shook in his arms long after the last moan faded. She needed him, not for answers, for silence, and he gave it. When dawn came, she woke slowly in his bed, bare, safe, warm. The city outside hummed with its usual hunger, but inside, everything was still. Jay still slept beside her, arm draped loosely over her hip. Zuri reached for her phone on the bedside table, screen lighting against the low morning glow. Notifications exploded. DMs, tags, mentions, all screaming in digital tongues. And then a message. No icon, no name, just a username. "Ocean eyes. You looked divine last night, Golden One. We're watching." She stared. Chills prickled up her spine. She set the phone down. Gently. Outside, the city stirred. Inside, something deeper did too.